Good morning, everybody. Great to have you here participating with us again today for our second out of four workshops to support Nova Scotia businesses with agri-food exporting. And we have some great guests lined up here today to share their expertise and some insights and also some real life stories too from people who are doing it day in and day out. So. As we get going, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm joining you from Shabuktuk, the traditional and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq peoples. And we want to jump right in to talk about Canada Brand. And we are very fortunate to have an expert with us and somebody who really drove the program and has worked on development and execution. And I think that's a great combination to have here with us. And I certainly know Cheryl from lots of different interactions, excuse me, with Agriculture Activities Canada, where Cheryl works as a senior market development officer. So Cheryl, we're excited to have you. Welcome, and I'll introduce you properly so that people do understand a bit about your background. But welcome. Good morning from Ottawa.
Thank you. Good morning as well. Happy to be here.
Okay. So Cheryl has a background in public relations and 15 years experience working with agriculture and agri-food Canada in international affairs. As a senior market development officer, Cheryl has driven market development strategies and initiatives in the EU and the Middle East regions. She spent 2 years co-leading the modernization of AAFC's Canada Brand program to assist the Canadian agri-food and seafood sectors in gaining greater visibility internationally and promoting Canadian products as second to none. Cheryl has led the planning and implementation of the 2-year-long e-commerce and digital marketing campaigns in Japan and Vietnam as a component of launching the Canada Brand in international markets. Currently, she's focused on the Indo-Pacific region, which we heard a lot about yesterday, and creating strategic approaches to assist companies in capitalizing on export opportunities. Cheryl has also recently obtained a diploma in international trade from the Forum for International Trade Training. So Cheryl, welcome, and we're excited to have you share some insights about Canada Brand and what it is and where it's all going. So I'll turn it over to you, and Yulia and I will watch the chat. If there's any questions, we may stop and if there's a place to have some questions and dialogue, because we definitely want to give people an opportunity for that as well. So.
Absolutely. Thanks, Peter. So yes, please at any time feel free to jump in and let me know. I admittedly don't work on Zoom a lot, so I'm a little outside my comfort zone and have different
That's all right.
screens up in front of me.
We'll watch
So
the chat and
please
help
interrupt at
that
any
part
point.
for you.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. First, I just really want to thank Nova Scotia Agriculture and Invest Nova Scotia for inviting me to speak with you all today. As Peter mentioned, my name is Cheryl Donnelly, and I work with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, working in the market development and trade promotion branch in international affairs. So I'm really pleased to be here with you today to talk about the Canada Brand Program. I'm hoping some of you may recognize the brand from some of your international activities. But if it's completely new to you, I'm really excited to be able to introduce you to our relaunched national brand. So let's dive in. So just for a little bit of context and background, the Canada Brand Program was established almost nearly 17 years ago. So over time, it did become quite outdated, and our industry members really agreed that we needed to refresh the program to enhance, our competitiveness in the global marketplace. So that's what we've done with their consultation along the way. We relaunched the refreshed brand and program components to industry in February 2023. So we're actually coming up here on our second anniversary. So in simple terms, the Canada Brand is a recognizable mark of Canadian quality. It was designed to help unify our diverse agriculture sector in international markets. The Canada Brand is a marketing program that aims to create a consistent reputation for Canadian food and beverage products. So it essentially consists of unified marketing tools and resources and strategy, optimized digital brand assets for today's business environment, and international promotion of Canadian food products. So we know one of the biggest hurdles for exporters is developing greater brand recognition and promotion opportunities in foreign markets. What exporters need is something that can catch the attention of buyers and consumers while telling your unique story that ultimately leads to purchase. So by aligning with a strong brand, exporters can alleviate this hurdle by increasing, one, visibility. So the Canada brand improves global recognition and demand for Canadian products by helping distinguish them in the marketplace. So Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, along with our key partners and stakeholders, such as yourselves, companies, Canadian companies, and our provincial colleagues, emphasize the Canada brand in global markets to in global market development and trade promotion initiatives to create stronger visibility together. Two is trust. The Canada brand offers cohesive messaging to position Canadian producers and processors as trusted suppliers of agri-food products, with our world-class food safety system as a key point of differentiation. And three is reputation. The Canada brand promotes the strongest attributes of the sector as a whole. So that includes quality, sustainability, innovation, diversity, and of course, food itself. Short, simple, yet effective language to be used internationally for quick yet impactful communication of our central values. So the Canada brand is targeted and has been deployed in branding efforts in our key export markets to help you, Canadian SMEs, gain traction internationally and ultimately help to increase Canada's market share overall. So why a refresh and how did we get to this new look? So again, industry asked us to update and essentially make the program better. So through extensive consultations, we spoke to members of the Canadian industry to learn what was needed from a national branding program. And ultimately, the feedback was pretty loud and clear. They asked for a modern and stylish new look, but definitively Canadian was very important. More assets that were flexible and easy to use, and an improved intuitive system, including a stronger web and digital presence. So that's hopefully what we were able to do. Oops. So here's what we came up with. I'm going to play you our brand story video that incorporates all of the core brand attributes, and then at the end reveals the logo itself. I do hope the sound will work here. So if it doesn't, please do let me know. No? No sound?
The sound isn't working, Cheryl.
Sorry about that.
Unless you want to do a voiceover. Is there singing or?
No singing, but that's okay. The logo is on the next couple of slides, and I'll happily send the video along afterwards so everyone can take a peek at it. That's no problem. Okay, so during this collaborative process to refresh the Canada brand, it became apparent that the brand needed to highlight a few key points. So Canadian food processors and producers are proud of the high quality products they produce. The sector is a very open community of industry that's always happy to share their expertise. And industry values the interconnectedness and the diversity of the Canadian agriculture sector. So ultimately, we believe that the Canada brand should reflect the people who use it. There's the logo finally. So we built the new logo with those concepts in mind. It's meant to be symbolic. It's meant to be a continuous line, a connected industry. So again, the consultations told us you wanted the logo to be unmistakably Canadian and represent the diversity of the agriculture industry. And then we incorporated symbolism into the logo to represent our core values. So the top of the leaf is a crown representing quality, the upward rise through the middle for innovation, and the small leaf at the bottom for sustainability. We actually depict food and diversity attributes using colorful visual assets, which I'll share in a minute. So we really see this new logo as a symbol of unity that connects us to each other, no matter what global marketplace we're in. So we were also asked for a design that was simplistic and easy to use on, say, packaging. As you can see here, the logo comes in various formats to suit various needs. On packaging, you can see different options there to grab the attention of consumers and market your product as undeniably Canadian. The variations provide flexibility. For instance, you can have the logo on the transparent background, or it can be in that circular shape, which kind of represents more of a branded quality seal. So while we heard the red maple leaf was obviously a necessity, we were also asked for more color options to make a stronger impact and really resonate with the diversity of the sector. So we made sure to provide plenty of new options to fit specific needs. You'll see the diversity in food represented through color and other imagery as I get going through the branding assets as well. We've associated each core attribute with a colored leaf, but there's a lot of flexibility in the brand application itself. You don't have to use the specific colored leaf with the attribute it's listed here for. The leaves are all standalone icons as well. So speaking of those core attributes, so our traditional tagline has always been "Quality is in our nature." The refresh program, we were able to expand beyond quality to, again, better represent the many reasons Canadian products are superior. So when it comes to marketing, you yourselves know why your product is great, but it's just important to say it in a way that international consumers understand as well. So Canada Brand gives you strategic messaging to sell your products in international markets. We've expanded to 5 taglines you can use to reflect the core attributes of the Canada Brand. So again, those are quality, innovation, sustainability, diversity, and food. We also have a variety of additional marketing messaging, like the examples here on the screen, to support the specific attributes that speaks to your product itself. So these will give you options when adapting to the demands of different market needs, trends, etc. So now for some of the kind of more exciting digital brand assets we were able to do in the relaunch and for our members to utilize. So we do have a suite of videos to showcase our key attributes that celebrate the diverse locations, practices, and aspects that make up the Canadian agriculture industry. So again, most of the videos are all connected by that single line that forms into our logo at the end, emphasizing the continuous line for connected industry. There's about a series of 6 vignette videos, 1 for each attribute, and then that brand story video that I tried to show you a few moments ago. They're all short clips, well suited for social media, or you can fit them together on a loop for an event like a trade show where you want some background imagery. We also have a longer commercial style video which tells the story of Canadian food while creating a connection to all consumers, no matter what market you're in. That connection is the kitchen, where all cultures prepare wholesome meals for their loved ones. So this video really communicates that Canada is in fact the world's kitchen. Oops. There we go. So we also offer animated versions of our new logo. Each highlights one of the core attributes and adds some visual kind of excitement to digital formats. Again, they can be used on social media, virtual business platforms to create just bigger brand impact. And then to, of course, enhance our social media and online presence kind of in a more fun way, we wanted to create some unique assets that supported the brand's personality. So, of course, what better way to do that these days than through GIFs? Here's a few examples. We do have more in the toolkit, again, for kind of each of the core brand attributes. And then sticking with the theme of fun and brand personality, there's also a variety of digital stickers. So these stickers portray iconic Canadian items, animals, and of course, well-known food products. These stickers, again, help just connect consumers to kind of a lighter, more playful side of the brand. They're great options for social media, but also can be used in promotional items, online contests, any place, you might need kind of a fun Canadian mascot that would come in handy. Our photo library. Our updated image library has a range of high quality images you can use in your marketing materials. We're really, really pleased that we were able to partner with Destination Canada on this piece to offer our Canada Brand members access to their extensive library of iconic Canadian imagery to elevate your marketing visuals. So as a member, you can actually download high quality imagery and incorporate it into any of your marketing needs completely free. Again, a lot of Canadian companies told us, you have the imagery for your specific product, but when you go out internationally, you really lacked the kind of iconic Canadian imagery to incorporate in those marketing materials to, again, let people know that you are a Canadian company. And then finally, becoming a Canada Brand member now adds you also to our online membership directory. So upon enrollment, you'll actually be asked to fill out a company profile, which will be added to our public-facing online directory. So as a member, you'll be asked to actively keep up your information so that it remains relevant. The directory will promote your company as a Canada Brand member and help match your Canadian products to potential buyers. So we see this as being a really essential tool for our trade commissioners that work in various markets as well. And lastly, our style guide. So this style guide helps to make the brand application more flexible than ever. We've really condensed it to the previous style guide, which was a very thick binder that we actually used to mail out, in fact. But we've been able to condense it to make it easier when you need just a little bit of guidance on the Canada Brand assets you've seen today. It just includes some helpful tips like, different layouts to use for text, which fonts, colors associate with the brand, and fun ways to incorporate the overall assets. So that is the toolkit itself. So obviously, once we built the brand, it's important. We knew it was important to increase the visibility of it as much as possible. So the Canada Brand is showcased in our broad market development and promotion initiatives undertaken by AFC and partners in multiple key export markets. So these initiatives include working with, again, our provincial colleagues and the Trade Commissioner Service internationally to deliver in-market promotional and business-to-business events. This helps create new business opportunities for you and allows companies to participate in activities like buyer's missions, in-store and e-commerce promotions, tasting events, sample programs, and much more. So AFC also incorporates the Canada Brand at large-scale pavilions around the world at the largest food and beverage trade shows. We also have a consumer-facing website to help educate international consumers and buyers on Canadian food and the story behind it. So I encourage you all to visit the website for more information, and especially the event section where you can actually see the Canada Brand kind of hard at work all over the globe. So the launch of the Canada Brand also included two exciting campaigns. We launched digital marketing and e-commerce consumer campaigns in two key export markets, Japan and Vietnam. They have gone a long way in helping Canadian companies gain traction in these markets, getting new Canadian products entering the market and displacing the sales of competitor products. Canadian products are showcased on a major e-commerce platform, promoted with targeted seasonal food campaigns, and supported by digital marketing efforts such as key opinion leader collaborations, social media, and again, a consumer website. So what does it take to become a member? So our qualifications ensure that when somebody sees the Canada Brand logo, they know with confidence that you provide a high quality Canadian food product. So becoming a member just requires three small things. You have a role in producing, promoting, or supporting Canadian food and agriculture products, and you're a registered business with a valid CRA number, which I'm sure most of you have. Your products are grown, raised, harvested, or processed in Canada following all relevant Canadian regulations related to exports. And of course, you are exporting your product or you're export ready based on the Trade Commissioner Services export quiz. So when you go through the registration process, you'll be guided through those questions and you just check them off and then you're ready to fill out your registration application. Your application will then be processed and vetted through our AFC regional offices just to ensure accuracy. And that is it. And then you become a Canada or fully registered Canada brand member. So just a few other bites I wanted to mention. That AFC offers a variety of services for Canadian exporters. So please do visit our international trade section of the Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada's website to learn more. We encourage exporters to take advantage of our market intelligence, how to find a trade commissioner in a specific market, information on financial programming, and how to exhibit under the Canada Pavilion at the world's largest trade shows. So please register to become a Canada brand member. And when you register, you do gain free access to the Canada brand toolkit. So just a quick recap. Once you've enrolled, you'll have access to a government-backed Canadian label of recognition in global marketplaces, a members-only platform with access to marketing tools and digital brand assets, a public-facing company profile on the Canada brand e-directory, market development resources and in-market promotional events showcasing the Canada brand, including the Canada Brand Pavilion program, and then engagement and support from our trade commissioners globally as well. So I'll just leave you with these points to consider today. What is the real benefit to industry adopting the Canada brand? Well, we know creating visibility, demand, and opportunities for Canadian agri-food can only be achieved if we work together. So the Canada brand really gives us that opportunity to create that impact together under one cohesive image, creating a unified Canadian presence in international markets. So really, ultimately, together, we can show the world food is in our nature. And that is it for me. Is there any questions?
Well, thanks very much, Cheryl. That's it's a great summary, and I know I've seen this in action at different shows and that kind of thing. So I'm sure that people will have some questions. I see there is one there in the chat. Just was asking if there's any fee to join Canada Brand.
There is not. It is a free program to our Canadian exporters, which we take great pride in being able to offer it for free. So no, it's just as long as you meet the requirements of the program, you'll gain access to the toolkit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, does anybody else? I mean, this is your chance to ask Cheryl different questions about sort of how this works. If you've got specific things, related to your business. I'm curious whether there's anybody here who is a member now, and if perhaps they've used any of the assets or any of the things that Cheryl's mentioned, because I've certainly seen it in action at whether it's Cial or different places. So I don't know if there's anybody there. Do you use it, Katie?
We haven't to this point, no. So it's something that we are looking at, especially like talking to the trade commissioner in Vietnam. It's something that we're going to look into. Yeah.
Yeah, and Katie, I was actually going to mention with the campaign in Vietnam, I know we were able to do the Apple promotion with Grab last year, and that was all part of the Canada brand campaign, actually. So there is a lot of activity happening under those campaigns and the Canada brand itself that sometimes we feel like a lot of Canadian companies or associations aren't even really aware of the fact that they're under the Canada brand umbrella. So.
There's another question that just came in the chat, Cheryl. Do we need to have the product ready to be a part of the program? Can we still join while we are still in the exploratory stage?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, we work with our AFC regional offices. Our regional offices will often do outreach to the company themselves or our provincial colleagues just to see where you're at in the export journey. Again, if you are walking the path to become export ready, we would never deny you access from the brand at all. It's just really built for Canadian exporters. So, but again, if you're going down that path and you're wanting to execute the brand and incorporate it build it into your marketing materials for export, absolutely.
And I think that's an interesting question, because if you're working on packaging and those kind of things, it's a little bit of a chicken and egg kind of question, right? Because if you want to have it included, then you need to do that work up front, not once you're already in the market. So
exactly.
Another question, what does sustainability mean in the world of Canada brand?
That is a great question. I think sustainability is an interesting topic. We see it as a theme almost no matter what marketplace you're in these days. And we're trying to continuously evolve our sustainability messaging within the Canada Brand Toolkit. But we're also doing some work behind the scenes to better understand what sustainability means kind of in each market. So in the Indo-Pacific specifically, AFC is looking to kind of undertake a project this year to do some research in some key export markets in the Indo-Pacific region to better understand what sustainability demands and trends are in each specific market. And I think that's a really key piece is sustainability doesn't mean the same thing in each market. There's kind of no one size fits all approach to sustainability. So really diving into the market itself and understanding what consumers are seeking from a sustainability standpoint in that market is really crucial. So again, we're looking to do some kind of consumer-oriented research to understand what sustainability means to consumers in various markets, and then how Canadian companies can come in and position their products in that market as sustainable. So I'll give you a quick example. Vietnam, I know Vietnam quite well from working on the campaign. Vietnam looks at sustainability more so from the farm practices and harvesting aspects of sustainability. Whereas at the consumer level, you walk into a small store in Vietnam and every piece of fruit is still wrapped in plastic and plastic bags and whatnot. So it's you know, if you're going to Vietnam as a Canadian exporter, you might not want to spend your marketing budget on sustainable packaging because it really doesn't resonate with the consumers there yet. You want to be positioning your product as being sustainable from a production standpoint, more so. I hope that answers the question.
How does Canada brand ensure quality? It is very risky to just hand over a brand to anyone who signs up. Is there quality control processes?
That's a good question. We thought long and hard about that during the refresh of the Canada Brand Program. Ultimately, we don't have the ability to be kind of a police force behind the scenes either. However, we feel very strongly with our vetting process. Again, we work with our regional offices, AFC regional offices, and with our provincial colleagues as well to identify companies that, again, are export ready and are exporting quality products. A lot of the companies, again, are involved in many of our international market development activities. So we really do have that vetting process where we have several touch points with a company to ensure that they are legitimate and that they have Canadian product and again are exporting internationally. So from that standpoint, it seems to work quite well.
Cheryl, are there any like specific examples from the experience in Vietnam where people have sort of used some of the assets and I go back to my old days and said, did they really sell product by using it and that kind of thing? Like, do you have some examples where people have used it and they said, okay, it moved the needle, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, Vietnam is a really great example of, I think, a successful collaborative approach. When we started the campaign in Vietnam, again, it being kind of, we look at Vietnam as kind of an emerging market for Canadian agri-food exporters. It's not quite as established like a market like Japan. We had to take a very different approach towards the campaigns from Japan and Vietnam. Vietnam, when we started our e-commerce promotion, I think we had as little as not even 20 products that we were able to showcase on our Canadian fair on Shopee in Vietnam. But as we got the ball rolling with the Canada Brand campaign, we got talking to more industry, we got talking to local partners there. We realized that we needed to kind of take a hybrid approach in Vietnam, that the e-commerce campaign itself wasn't going to be enough to really increase Canada's visibility. So we started partnering with local importers, distributors, retailers, and doing also traditional kind of in-store promotions that were supported by digital marketing efforts. And we've really gained a lot of traction in Vietnam over the last year and a half. We've gone from, again, less than 20 products on our e-commerce promotion to over 120 products. We've seen new companies enter the market, new products enter the market. And we've gotten some really interesting results out of Vietnam as well, not just from a sales perspective, but our local partners picking up more Canadian product because they've come to us and said, that promotion of Canadian beef, Canadian apples, whatever the product, we were able to displace some of our competitors like the US and Australia, which I think that was specifically towards the beef campaign we were able to do. But that for Canadian product is quite huge in a market like that. So again, we've seen more industry associations come to us and want to partner on initiatives, working more with our provincial counterparts in the market as well, to really, again, come together collectively and increase our presence in the market. And again, those local partners have said you can really feel Canada's commitment to the market, and that's what's been really lacking previously. So our, again, ability to come to the market and work collectively to really amplify our presence and ensure the local partners there that we are committed for the long term has made a world of difference.
Yeah, it's definitely, and it's interesting, my experience, it's so market by market, right? Because you have some success in one, you really have to look at the next one differently and understand the dynamics in that specific market. So for sure.
Absolutely. Customization is key.
And what are the plans for 2025? What do you see on the horizon?
Great question. So again, we continue to build up our membership. From the toolbox itself, we're hoping to evolve the brand assets that are available to companies and add more. We still have some functionality with our Canada brand portal, some functionality elements that are being worked on. So again, some of the brand assets that are in there, but we're also bringing more, I would say, engagement options to the portal. So we hope to have like a calendar of events in there, a message board for members, so you can connect with not only us at AFC, but also with other Canada brand members and trade commissioners. Building kind of more of the community aspect of the brand is certainly one goal for us. And then the other goal, again, is to really increase the visibility of the brand globally. So we continue with our e-commerce campaigns, digital marketing and e-commerce campaigns in Japan and Vietnam. I should have mentioned as well, Japan's campaign is with Rakuten. So Rakuten has been a great partner in Japan and has offered us month-long promotions. I think we're doing 3 this year actually with Rakuten. So we see that continuing as well. Again, Rakuten has been a phenomenal success in Japan for us. The sales numbers have been fantastic, but also the level of products. I think we're now at over 345 products on Rakuten as well. So we've, again, seen new companies, new products come into market there. So we'll be continuing.
345 Canadian products?
Yes.
Really? Okay. That's a big deal.
Yeah, we're really, really happy to see that grow. So, and outside the campaigns themselves, the Indo-Pacific is a major priority for the government of Canada right now. So we're really putting a lot of focus, energy, and resources into the Indo-Pacific and really starting to kind of help companies diversify within that region itself. So again, a lot of work going on there, and a lot of market development and trade promotion initiatives that companies can get involved with.
Okay. And I do see in the chat, one of the people on today is having a challenge sort of getting into that site that you shared. Now, when Yulia and I put it in, we both were able to get in. So I think it could, I'm not sure, but perhaps, and if somebody is having a challenge, Cheryl, is it best to contact sort of their AAFC person and sort of work through some of that together? Is that the best way to do it?
Actually, the best way, Peter, on the Canada Brand website, and again, happy to share it afterwards as well. Right on the Canada Brand website, we do have a generic Canada Brand email, and that email box is monitored daily as well. So you should get a pretty quick response if you're having any any troubles accessing the portal or whatnot, or accessing the site.
Okay.
We do have somebody there that's quite technically inclined and very helpful.
It's better
It is
than
not me.
sending email to me. Yeah, me either. Yeah. Does anybody have any other questions for Cheryl? I think now's your chance to, Patricia, yeah, go ahead.
How long is your membership for? So is it only for as long as you have your product? Like once you join and you have an export ready product, can you have access to the materials for like 2 years, 5 years, or is it just like if you run out of a supply of that and you're not going to trade shoes anymore, then you no longer a member?
It's an indefinite membership, but we don't put a timeline or a restriction on it. Again, I think we ask companies to continuously. Our goal is to ask companies to kind of look at their membership every year, look at their profile every year, and update it. So again, if you all of a sudden don't have enough product to supply a market and you're not exporting at the moment, it's best to just ask us to remove your profile for now, so that again, we have a updated online directory at all times for our trade commissioners to access. I don't think you want our trade commissioners contacting you constantly saying, hey, we have an interested buyer, and you unfortunately not having the product to supply it. So as long as you are actively exporting, your membership is valid.
I just had a question around this kind of reads more like a message versus a brand, just without standards or pays to play or like kind of requirements to hold your membership, or just reading on the website, it just says that if as long as you can export, you can be a member of a brand. That's a little risky for me to kind of wrap my head around that. But I was wondering about costs. Like, so is there funding, like if you're to become a member and you're looking to place a logo on a box or a bag or something that we export for packaging, those can come at pretty significant costs, right?
Absolutely. And again, there's no the Canada Brand program doesn't require you to do any of that. It really is a support mechanism for you to identify as a Canadian company in the global marketplace, right? So hence why that's a free program to, again, qualify Canadian companies. It's again, we know the companies using our brand are Canadian companies and feel quite confident in that. And we also want to be inclusive in our market development activities globally, right? But as far as funding, we do, so AFC has the agri marketing program, which is more geared towards Canadian associations at the moment. It used to be open to SMEs, but Global Affairs Canada came in and to be fair, have far more funding than Agriculture Canada did for companies in their marketing aspects. So I'm not an expert on the CAN export program, but that would be the program that Canadian SMEs, agriculture SMEs, are directed to get funding support for marketing initiatives or trade promotion initiatives.
So no, or
not directly from AFC, from the Government of Canada, yes, through CAN Export, you have access to funding there, but through AFC's agri marketing program, that's directed to more Canadian associations to again support you in your international trade activities.
Thanks.
No problem.
And there is one other question about importing. So, and I think that's a different issue for sure, right, Cheryl? But
yes, yes.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Peter.
You know more than I do about it. Go ahead.
Again, this really is a program to identify as a Canadian product in international markets. So it really is a international exporting program. So no, previously, if you are familiar with the Canada Brand, previously we did have a domestic arm of the program, and maybe that's where the question about importing is coming in. But currently, again, this program is just at this stage for Canadian exporters in international markets. Again, because it's really just about identifying as a Canadian product, right? And again, being able to communicate the values of Canadian companies.
Mm-hmm. And do you have sort of a top 3 or top 5 list of shows where Canada Brand will be present next year, Cheryl?
Yeah, we have a list of, I think, the top 7 largest, like we call them our flagship trade shows. So yes, I can certainly share that with you before I leave. I'll share it in the chat today before I head out. But I will say we also work with, again, our trade commissioners and our provincial colleagues quite closely to execute the brand at smaller niche trade shows throughout the globe as well. So for instance, in the Indo-Pacific, this year we piloted 2 new trade shows, a Canada pavilion at 2 new trade shows, one of which was WolfX, so the World Food Expo in Philippines, and we did one pavilion at Food and Hotel Vietnam as well. And sorry, we also did a third at Food and Hospitality Indonesia as well. So we work really closely with our trade commissioners. Oftentimes the trade commissioners come to us annually and say, look, we have a trade show that a lot of Canadian companies are interested in attending. The provinces are going to be there, really to have a better pan-Canadian approach and collective approach to the trade show. We're going to try a Canada pavilion there and do it under the Canada brand umbrella. And so we've been working with trade commissioners to kind of execute more shows as well.
Yeah, I think it definitely can be a great destination for buyers in that market when there's more of a presence, no doubt about it. So
absolutely, it's just, you know, walking into a show and to be able to identify where the Canadian companies are, again, really does make a world of difference in the engagement companies see at trade shows.
Any other questions or anything for Cheryl or while she's here with us? You have to take advantage of these opportunities when the experts show up.
Just curious about the investment, like the cost to develop the brand.
The cost to develop a brand?
Yeah.
Well, this project, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but this project spanned about, well, I'll be honest, we started pre-COVID, and COVID derailed us slightly in the ability to do the refresh. So I think this project ended up spanning close to 4 years for us, but that included, you know, the launch of the digital marketing campaigns in Japan and Vietnam as well. Again, I couldn't necessarily tell you the exact cost. I don't have the number in front of me, but it probably would have added up to the million somewhere mark. But yeah, I don't have the exact cost in front of me.
Patricia?
Hi, thank you. So the gifts and the digital stickers. So are those digital stickers then how do you work with the digital stickers? Like, are they a download
They are a download,
on your phone?
yes. Yeah. Again, I do apologize. I'm not the most technically inclined person on our branding team. But if you are having any trouble with kind of how to download them and then execute them or incorporate them into your, say, social media aspects, again, I know our technician behind the scenes could certainly help you with that. But yeah, they are downloadable. I'm not sure how many social media platforms they've been used in, but again, with some of the campaigns and whatnot in Japan, I know they use them on the Rakuten promotion. Again, I know some of them are a little maybe kitschy, but in certain markets like Japan, they love them. So we put them all over everything, our online contests, the Rakuten showcase itself. You'll see some of the digital stickers there as well. So again, there's multiple ways to kind of download them and utilize them.
But I mean, in terms of the strategy, like, I suppose you're being fairly targeted around like where you use them. So I mean, having stickers like that, like anyone who is even doing inbound marketing and promotion, like it would build the Canada brand for them to be using them, would it not? Or you really only want to use it for the export, like the posts that are like building export?
Yeah, I mean, again, if a company is doing both import and export, like yes, it always helps to build the Canada brand from a visibility standpoint. Again, I think if we take a step back and just the core function of the Canada Brand Program is really just internationally to promote as Canadian. So again, I don't think we necessarily we haven't this round put restrictions on you can use the brand for that and you can't use the brand for that, because again, we just don't have the ability to police that.
Right.
So either.
Are the stickers just already out there in the world that we could be identifying like we're Canadian?
Absolutely.
We're
Yeah.
making
As soon
Canadian
as you get
product.
access to the toolkit, you'll as soon as you become registered to become a Canada Brand member, you'll have access to all of those digital assets that I showed you today.
Okay. All right, that's what I meant. It's like it's not like it is a specific download and then you have to have it on your phone. It's not just sort of going to be there as a listing of items that you can use. Okay, that's great. Never mind. I think that's a fantastic idea. Digital stickers. I love it. How fun.
Great. Yes, it is meant to be a little bit more fun and playful for sure.
I might ask my kids how to use them. That's what I might.
Yeah.
There's a couple more comments in the chat there, Cheryl, before we let you go. I don't know, Julia, do you want me to just go through them there? So,
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
so one person just asked if you could comment on what is working in Japan and Vietnam, what Canadian products are are they buying in those markets? And then Matthias, thanks for jumping in from Nova Scotia Agriculture. Added a comment about blueberries are a long-standing export to Japan from Nova Scotia, but also an opportunity for Haskap, another fruit juice, and some smaller volumes of sparkling wine moving into Japan as well. But if you have some other sort of products that you've seen, in the work there, Cheryl, that are coming from Canada into those markets.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Matthias, for jumping in there with some of those products for sure. Japan again is a larger, much more established market for Canadian products. So I will say in Japan, there's a lot more opportunity for higher end products as well. They really, really value those quality, higher end products. Price point isn't as big of a factor as, say, a market like Vietnam. So again, I will happily share the links to the Rakuten and Shopee promotion pages as well, so you can companies can go in and kind of see the variety of Canadian products. I will say on Rakuten, we have everything from Canadian meats, seafood, specialty and gourmet products, wines and spirits and beer. There really is the whole gamut there. There's specialty ginseng products, honey products, obviously maple syrup. And again, the quality quality products are just a real sought out thing in Japan. And then when you look more towards Vietnam, again, higher price points are a little bit more challenging in that market. We don't have as many gourmet products just yet. Again, some of those gourmet products do really work around holidays in Vietnam. Again, that's when the consumers are really kind of seeking out those gift type purchases. But in Vietnam, our main products that we're pushing on the platform themselves are beef, some frozen seafood products. We've had some great success with Canadian fresh fruits, Canadian apples. We're hoping for blueberries, Canadian cherries. We've done some promotions with them as well. And then we do have, some shelf-stable kind of snack food options in Vietnam as well. Again, ginseng being very popular there as well. So again, just not quite as fully established as Japan. And again, the higher price point in Vietnam is a real challenge.
Okay. And I guess maybe the last question in there, just if there's any partnership with China, Tmall, and JD.com.
That's a great question. I'm not sure about the first one, but I know we have worked with JD.com in the past. I haven't particularly worked on the China file, but I know my colleague, who might actually be on the line right now, Mariah, who's just taken over the China file, has worked with the Trade Commissioner Services to do several promotions in China. I unfortunately couldn't say which one they're doing this year, but I know JD.com has been one in the past.
Mhm. Okay. And so if that person's interested with that, it's, good to follow up with either with a AFC person or go
Yeah,
specifically towards the
feel free
Canada.
to follow up with me directly as well, and I can always point you in the right direction. Be that any question really about market development, happy to kind of triage for you.
Mhm. And I said one last question. Now there's another one.
Sure, no problem.
You're all day with us, Cheryl. Uh,
Happy to.
so the question is how does that e-commerce work with Rakuten for Canadian companies? Which third-party logistics handle frozen to ship to the end consumer in Japan?
Yeah. So Japan, again, these campaigns overall, from an e-commerce standpoint, were a real learning curve from us. It's still really important for a Canadian company to have a relationship with an importer. Ultimately, the e-commerce, whether it be Rakuten or even Shopee in Vietnam, is just a sales channel, right? So it really is important for the company to have a relationship with the importer. And for the most part, it's the importer that is looking after the logistics. We also have some companies, again, like there's actually some Japanese companies that are listed on the Rakuten showcase. And again, because they import, 100% Canadian honey or maple syrup or whatever the case and repackage it as a Japanese, under a Japanese label, we've allowed them to participate in the e-commerce promotion. So again, we have a rigorous kind of process with our embassy in Tokyo to kind of ensure that all the products listed on the showcase are Canadian. But yeah, I would say your best bet is still to work through the Trade Commissioner Service. If anyone is interested in kind of looking at the campaigns in Japan and Vietnam, please do reach out to me and I can put you in touch with the Trade Commissioners as well. And they'll really walk you through the process of, okay, these are the steps you need to get to market. Unfortunately, I mean, I would love it if we could put any Canadian product and put it on the showcase, but there is, a rigorous process and you still have to go through the steps of trade essentially to get your product there.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think people have to have their own capabilities and capacity there. AFC can facilitate.
Capacity is a big one. Yes.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
right. Well, Cheryl, I want to say thank you very much on behalf of everybody. Just really appreciate you sharing the insights about Canada Brand. And then, I think that it's so valuable to be able to ask questions. I mean, it's great to see sort of the presentation and what it's all about. But the great thing is the ability to ask some questions that are specific to people's, sector or markets or that kind of thing. So thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate you being here with us. And
I'm happy to be.
okay.
Yes, sorry. There's one last question. So, because you said, so I want to know, like, how do they know, or like they decide the product is Canadian? How? So, what is the process?
What is the process for them to know that the product is Canadian?
Yes.
Yeah, I think what the question is, Cheryl, like if somebody's going to import some ingredients and then process a product here in Canada and ship it to Japan, would that be considered Canadian? Is there a certain definition to use Canada Brand?
Yeah, so again, when you're becoming a Canada Brand member, it'll ask you if your product meets the Canadian specifications. And again, it points you to the CFAA website as well. And again, through that vetting process with our AFC regional offices, again, they'll work with you and speak with you to ensure that, to better understand your company, your products, ensure that you are in fact, meeting the requirements. For it to be labeled a Canadian product. And again, that's for any Canadian exporter. That's the process that you go through with CFIA as well, right? So that's how we ensure that it's a Canadian product. And again, in market, if you're asking, in Japan, on Rakuten, how do you ensure it's a Canadian product? Again, the trade commissioners only work with reputable importers and have a relationship with those importers. Importers, distributors, companies that are on Rakuten. So again, the trade commissioners work with them to understand the composition of their products and to ensure that I think in Japan, they have a 80% threshold. So it has to be 80% Canadian ingredients to be considered a Canadian product on the showcase.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
But that is just so it just and that's kind of speaking a bit to my point as well too around like brands have standards, right? And they have, and so there's got to be more than just a questionnaire. Like if we're talking like how do we know that the company has good quality sustainable practices? Or I mean, pricing is a huge factor. We're in apples, we compete with Washington in the Asian market every season, and substandard quality tends to win the day. And with that comes cheap prices. And so Canada's, great message, brands, quality, sustainability, but how does this process not just ask the questions to vet on the phone or work with people to kind of check the boxes, like where's the standard that is maintained and is ensured to be in place, like for you to be part of this, like what's the quality standard, what does that mean, what's the sustainability standard, what does that mean?
Again, to be quite blunt about this, there was conversation about linking a quality assurance program to the Canada brand. But essentially, once you get going through the quality assurance programs in Canada that companies already have to be a part of or already require for export is quite substantial. So to be quite honest, if you're a Canadian company supplying bad product or low quality product, again, with the amount of touch points we have with the federal government, the federal government employees being like the Trade Commissioner Service, Global Affairs Canada, and then we move our regional offices as well. And then we work again with the trade commissioners. If you're a Canadian company with a bad reputation, I'm going to tell you word gets around fast, and we know exactly who you are pretty quickly. So again, while we don't have the mechanism to put in a policing force behind the brand at this point in time, we know that the companies that are under the Canada brand are, again, actively exporting and are in good standing among the community, if you will. Yeah.
So it's and I think it's always interesting how you want things to be sort of controlled or managed, right? Whether industry and the market will do that, or whether you want the the government agency to do that. So it's everybody has their own opinion about how you want to do that, right?
Exactly. You are kind of between a rock and a hard place there. And I think, again, a lot through the consultations we heard from industry, we really want the brand to be more inclusive and flexible. In previous iterations of the brand, it was a lot more rigorous. Like companies even had to send in their package samples to be approved by AFC Canada. And then you run into like timelines and holding companies up. And, so it really was trying to strike a balance of being able to support our companies in international markets under a Canada brand umbrella that meets their needs.
All right, well, Cheryl, thank you so much for sharing all these insights. I think it's great, and I learned a lot myself from different things, and we've talked before about Canada brands, so it's good if I'm continuing to learn. So
absolutely. Well, thanks again for having me today. I really appreciate it, and please do, if there's any more questions, happy to follow up with anyone.
Thank you very much, Cheryl.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And look for Cheryl at all kinds of different events too. So if you see that AFC booth, the chances are you might be there. So
that's right.
All right. Well, thanks, Cheryl.
All right. Take
Okay.
care, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So as we sort of segue into the second half of our session today, we're really fortunate to have three people here with us sharing some great insights. We've kind of moved from sort of the federal level to more the Nova Scotia lens, and so we have Matthias McClellan here from Nova Scotia Agriculture. We have Katie McNeil from Scotian Gold, and Elaine Eaton from Highland Haskap. So we've got sort of some different perspectives, one more from the Nova Scotia agriculture side of things and some of the different things happening there, and then also some real life stories of people who are doing this and working in this world. So what we're going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Matthias first, and then probably Elaine, and then Katie, and kind of give them the floor. But if you have any questions, again, put them in the chat, or we'll take a pause as well. But Matthias, I'll turn it over to you. I'll introduce each of you kind of before you start, so people have a bit of sense of your background. But thanks for being here with us. Matthias joined the Nova Scotia Department of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Aquaculture in 2016. So you've been there 8 years now. That's hard to believe. Um, uh, Matthias completed the International Bachelor of Business Administration program at Memorial in Newfoundland, and a Master's in International Trade from the University of Saskatchewan. And he's also a certified international trade professional through the Forum for International Trade Training. Prior to starting his employment with the province of Nova Scotia, Matthias worked in international business for a couple of years in Europe and Asia. So it's such a great background to share some insights. So Matthias, I'll turn it over to you, and the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Peter, and thanks to Invest Nova Scotia for coordinating this session, which I think has been long overdue. Some great speakers and topics being covered this week and next week. I kind of like how you introduced us, that I'm with the province, but then we have some women that are trailblazing and doing the real work. So I think I have 10 minutes, and I'll try to be even faster than that. Just so we get to some of those real life examples. So I have 5 slides that I'll try to pull up. We usually use Teams, but I think it should be fine.
Should be able to just use that share button at the bottom there, and
okay. Yeah.
There we go. So if you hit slideshow, then it should come up full screen there.
Okay. So my role with the department is to promote Nova Scotia food and beverage products outside of Nova Scotia. So within our small department, I'm the only one that's actually focusing specifically on this role. And I'll start by sharing that a couple of years ago we started this project, online project, and we wanted to build a website that showcased Nova Scotia food and beverage companies that are exporting outside of Nova Scotia. So this is a directory. It's a reference tool. It's a business development tool for some of our companies as we receive trade leads between the department and Invest Nova Scotia, as far as understanding who's exporting, where are they exporting, what volumes they're exporting. We also asked about certifications, whether organic, fair trade, etc., as we understand that the quality and those food safety standards are often asked. Discussions take place before price. So it's a voluntary membership. We've got about 60 Nova Scotia companies that are listed on this export directory site. So you can scan the QR code and browse the site. There is an email associated with the site that I've been monitoring. The URLs are there as well. I'll just move on to our next slide. So after we developed the directory, the online tool, we thought we've been doing these trade shows and events, and with Invest Nova Scotia, who's the lead on this, and it's been we didn't have a unique. It was always a bit of a scramble as far as gathering pictures for a trade show and regarding who's exhibiting, and is there a way to put some of these Nova Scotia food and beverage products that are exporting and these companies under an umbrella, and that is in itself such a challenge because of our diverse agriculture sector. And taking a step back, if you look at Nova Scotia agriculture, about half of our agriculture production in the province is supply management. So it's your dairy, it's your poultry, and eggs. So if you take that away and you look at some of the categories and products that do get exported from Nova Scotia, the biggest one is fruit. So it's the wild blueberries, it's your apples and cranberries, and seeing some positive signs with Haskap and others. So the vegetables, and then we've got beverages as well, a strong non-alc and alcoholic beverage sector that we're seeing some export growth, particularly for Nova Scotia wine and the craft distillery side of things. So this process was engaging with our industry partners. So that's Horticulture Nova Scotia, fruit growers, all of our beverage associations, and all of the companies that were listed on our export directory. We asked them, working with a marketing company, we'd like to develop a unique logo, and it, again, some of the narrative you can read for yourself. It's about the people behind this product, and I guess just taking a step back too. This is in no way a project to replace the Canada brand. We don't anticipate this logo going on packaging. It's definitely Canada first, but it was just a way for us to look at how can we differentiate ourselves at different trade shows and activities that we're exhibiting and cost sharing under the Canada brand. So next slide here is we launched this new logo and creative at FoodX Japan last year, so last March. So this is just a mock-up of the back wall at the trade show itself. So we've got Nova Scotia highlighted in red, and it's putting Nova Scotia on the map, because if you're in a new market, lots of people have never heard of Nova Scotia. It's Toronto, it's Vancouver, Montreal, and so putting Nova Scotia on a map in with the geography of the U.S. Northeast in reference to New York, where everyone knows, it was really helpful. And also interesting, in Japan, everyone knew about Prince Edward Island, so they're like, oh, Nova Scotia, that's close to PEI. So every market is different, but the grayed out blocks that you see were actually trade show booths at the show. So companies had their own individual logos and material in those grayed out blocks. And again, it's just a tool to help differentiate Nova Scotia agriculture for the beverage products. When we're doing these types of events where we have multiple Nova Scotia companies in one booth, and that's just an efficient way to cost share as well, where Invest Nova Scotia runs a really strong trade show program, and we welcome partnerships in the last few years, and as we strive to make industry-led decisions on where companies want to be. Next slide here is this is Maria touched on this yesterday morning for anyone that participated, but this is just a snapshot in this donut graph of some of the top export categories from Nova Scotia last year. So probably no surprise for folks that wild blueberries over 100 million in the top right here, and then we're going to move over to what Statistics Canada calls preparation of breads and pastries. This is largely driven by one big pie company in Kentville. And then what else? Some other interesting exports is, glad to have Scotian Gold on here. Apples. Nova Scotia was Canada's export apple leader in 2023 at almost 31 million. So that's substantial for a small province, and certainly we're in a different environment today than we were yesterday on the international trade scene. So I'll look forward to hearing what Katie has to share after this. And this is my last slide. So again, this is Nova Scotia agriculture exports by key markets. So about 2/3 going towards the United States, and some of the protectionist rhetoric that we've heard from Trump on the run up to this election, and now as a president, I think there's a lot of uncertainty over the next 4 years. And what I also want to draw into this graph, the remaining third of exports there that are going into the Netherlands, Korea, and Germany, Japan. This is largely driven by one big wild blueberry company that we all know. So we're very dependent on the United States, and I think working with the federal government and other provinces, we're going to have to be focused on market diversification, and follow closely what happens in the United States. So again, agriculture, we're about 500 million, $500 million in exports, and in comparison, we've got seafood, which is last year was valued at 2.5 billion. So seafood exports are about 5 times the size of our agriculture exports. I'll also give a plug that we're doing an activity in December 4th and 5th in the northeastern United States. So in partnership with Communities, Culture, Tourism, and Heritage and Invest Nova Scotia, we're supporting companies to travel to New York for a reception at our Canadian consulate on December 4th. And also host some business-to-business meetings. And then on the 5th, these companies are invited to the Nova Scotia tree lighting in Boston, and will also be some business-to-business meetings being set up. So if you are interested in this opportunity, please reach out to me. There's still time. We did a similar activity last year, and it was productive and successful. So I'll end my presentation here. And again, I'm fairly excited to hear from Katie and Elaine, who are doing some really exciting work in the Indo-Pacific markets that are, blazing a trail for Nova Scotia and some other companies to help, enter that market in the future.
Okay, great. Thanks, Matthias. And I think it's always good to get some of the facts as to, kind of what's going on out there, where, and how to build on them. So I do see one question in the chat, and probably what I'll do is maybe I'll read it off just so you get it, and then we'll come back to it after Elaine and Katie have a chance to share some insights. To give you a chance to think about a few things too. But just somebody's asking, how do we diversify beyond the US? And I think it's a interesting question given what happened yesterday, and how one of the things about export is you have to have a great product, but there are a lot of other factors that can impact your success and your ability to service a market. Some you control, some you don't. So I think it's an interesting question. So the question was, how do we diversify into markets beyond the US? What is actually stopping us from going into some of the newer markets? Is it product, market, price, or something different? So I'll leave that with you, and you can percolate on that for a few minutes. And I'll introduce Elaine, and Elaine, we're happy to have you here and share some insights from your perspective. Elaine's got a great background, which includes an MBA from Guelph, and she's also a certified international trade professional. I think I need to get one of these designations now. I'm hanging around with all these people who have these designations that I don't have. And Elaine's been an entrepreneur through a lot of her career. She owned and operated 3 consumer electronics businesses, and it might date you and I, Elaine, if we start talking about Sony Walkmans and VCRs and VIC-20 computers, but you dealt with all those. And then your career took you into some international business development roles in radio and the broadcast industry, and also natural health products industry. So you sort of changed direction, and then you decided you liked being an entrepreneur again. So you switched back and worked in a supporting role as a raw material supplier with these exciting, nutritious Haskap berries, which was a new entrant into Canada. So in 2014, with a contract in hand, Elaine and her husband Dennis planted 24 acres of Haskap berries, and their first commercial harvest was planned for 2019. And then, as things do happen, your buyer declared bankruptcy. So it was time to transition again, and Elaine joined up with another grower in Truro, Charlie Clark. and they formed Haskap Highland Orchards in 2020. And Haskap Highland launched their first consumer product range that is now sold in Sobeys, specialty grocers, and farm markets throughout the Maritimes. And subsequently, they've developed product ranges for the hotel, restaurant, and catering sector, as well as ingredient sector, featuring added value Haskap. So, Elaine, thank you for joining us and sharing some insights on sort of a bit about the journey, and then from an export perspective, insights to share with people.
Thanks, Peter. I'm happy to be here, and it's a great opportunity for me to express my appreciation for Invest Nova Scotia Department of Agriculture. We've got tremendous agencies here in the province that support us immensely, and they just want to see us succeed. So we have to do our part to make sure that we represent the province well, and that's how I'd like to really start my presentation, is to think about your internal strengths and weaknesses within your own group, because what you may be selling now in our domestic market is going to intensify hugely if you're successful in the export market. So can your business ramp up quickly? Can it go from selling cases to pallets to containers? And that's where we want to be, but how do we get there? So first thing I would suggest, I have an accounting background, so look at that financial statement and think about um, all of your supply chain, your capacity. You know, can your ingredients suppliers, your packaging suppliers, your manufacturing suppliers, can they accommodate an order? You get a PO and you have maybe 6 weeks to fill it. Can they do that? Can you work it into their system? Do they have that capacity to handle it? And that's really key on that aspect. So the other important component of all of that is your food safety. Is it at a very high standard? Because you're going to be questioned on that. So it's one thing to have the certificates and whatnot. Make sure that you're doing really well on your audits, or your co-packers are doing well on their audits, that you have allergen statements. In the international market, we're dealing with some very large buyers, and they certainly are not going to risk damaging their brand for a small Nova Scotia company, if you will. So you really have to be spotless in everything that you have in the way of food safety and all of the ingredients and allergens that might be in your products. So those are some of the things. Your cost of goods is another. Look at your numbers. So most of the framework that I look for anyway is to find a customer who's an importer or distributor, sort of that handle that works together within the same house, because it saves a margin step up. And if you have that, then they are going to sell probably to wholesalers, who are then going to sell to the retailers. The other way around that is to work with a large retailer and sell directly into the retailer. You'll have both types of businesses inquiring about your brand, which I'll get to in a moment now with the Trade Commissioner's Service and the trade shows. But think about how competitive can your products be in the marketplace you want to sell into, with the currency exchange, with the cost of freight and delivery, with all the investment that someone's going to make to support your brand and to support your products. They're buying your products because they're unique in some way, because they see that there's a profit opportunity for them in some way. So make sure that you can deliver on that, because that will be key in getting the business and keeping the business that your product's going to sell. So is your product going to sell? That marketing. We've got to deal with that aspect too. And that's a whole ball of wax. So first off, make sure your marketing is concise, simple, to the point. Hone your messaging. What is it that you need to communicate to the consumer in the marketplace, and how do you do that efficiently? simply. So that's really important. And then translation, how does it translate? That's, we have some great tools at our disposal these days with AI, Google Translate. Plug your marketing information into Google Translate and try it in different languages and see, get somebody who can read those languages or translate it back and see what it translates back as. So it's really important that communication is key. So put yourself in the buyer's shoes. If you're at a trade show, what do you think that you would be looking for if you were the owner, manager, or buyer of a large commercial concern, and you're looking at this new product? Is it the innovation? Is it something I can make money on? Is it something that my customers would buy? What is it that you need to communicate to those people that makes you unique? So it's that good old USP, unique selling proposition. What is it? Make sure it's very strong. So just looking at my notes here, what else can I tell you about the backup? The opportunity, well, I guess I'll go back to the financial statement, because your company has to be in a position to afford the investment to export. You need to have someone that is willing to go to those markets, to spend time in those markets, to deepen the relationships in those markets. And we have wonderful funding programs through both Invest Nova Scotia and Department of Agriculture. They're very supportive because, cost of samples are very expensive, shipping those off. So, make sure that your business can afford to do that, because it's not a quick sale. We've worked in Southeast Asia. We started with Japan because that is where our Haskap berry is known. It's better known there than it is in Canada. So that seemed to be low-hanging fruit to us. But it's been, and we've got some business there. But I will say that this year will be our third year at FoodX. We have to go back. You have to go back every year. You have to show up. And they notice that. That's important to them. And we have for 2 years now, we've had a really good customer in Hokkaido, the northern island of Japan. And before they bought, they came here. They came during our harvest season to check out what we're doing, how we do it, what are our processes? Do they feel really comfortable with who we are? Do we do what we say we do? And that is really, really important. And I find them cautious and slow to make that decision. But once they make that decision, it's a good decision. And you have a relationship. They want a relationship for life at that point. But you can't take that for granted. You have to continuously work on it. And the Asian community is really about relationships. It's about being there. It's about working with the Trade Commissioner's Service. We've had tremendous support from the Trade Commissioner's Service. They are so efficient. They know who the players are in their marketplace in each country. And they have, in September and October, we participated in a B2B tabletop show in each of Seoul, Tokyo, Osaka, and Taipei and Hong Kong. And each, it was 2 days. It was a whirlwind trip, exhausting, but oh so worth it. I mean, the quality of leads that came out of those opportunities has been phenomenal. And those are, you have the endorsement of the Canadian Embassy and the Trade Commissioner Service, and you just cannot underestimate that endorsement. It is so strong, and it makes a big difference. So you have to do your part. They are going to support you if you're not showing up, if you're not answering emails promptly, if you're not in there with the marketing materials and sending quotes and getting the information that those buyers want. So that's really important. That makes sure you have the time to do that, because it really requires a dedicated person to that piece of the business. So that's really key. What else can I tell you? You probably have some questions, and I'm happy to entertain those questions. One of the things I will say that I think is important to understand, if you're new to exporting, sometimes you're not sure of why the buyers are asking the questions that they're asking. So, for example, in Taiwan, the regulatory environment in Taiwan is quite stringent, and product quality is super important to them. So, if a Taiwan company is selling a product and they were to have consumer complaints that there was mold, or it wasn't of top quality, whatever, and that's reported to the regulatory enforcers, then that company is then subjected to ongoing testing of all of their products. And one offense that's something like 20% is tested, and then like the second or third percent, 50% is tested, and then 100% is tested. So to get around that, because we all know crap happens, a lot of companies in Taiwan have a barrier company. They have an in-house separate company, which is the importing. And then that importing transfers or sells that product to the actual marketing distribution company in Taiwan. So when you start a relationship there and they want to send samples so that they can test, and then they want to make sure that you have that same batch going into their marketplace in the products that you make. That's why, because of their environment, not because they're not trusting you particularly. They're just trying to protect themselves. And that's really important to understand motivations and ask what those motivations are sometimes if you're not understanding why they're asking the questions that you ask. And that just deepens the relationship. It shows that you want to be their partner and that you're interested in their success. And we're not going to be successful if they're not successful, right? So you have to work together, and it's really important that they know that you're not just, okay, sell some product and then we don't see you again for another year or something. You've got to, and that's what that commitment is about. It's emotional commitment, it's financial commitment. You've got to build those relationships. That's really true. So yeah, so I think that's probably what I have to offer at this particular point in time, Peter, but I'm happy to entertain questions because things do come up in that marketplace. We've had really good success with trade shows, but we've had better success with the Trade Commissioner Service. That really has been the lasting relationships that we've had, the best responses. And when you're at a trade show, often, there are other exhibitors there. There are importers and distributors exhibiting at those trade shows. So take time to leave your booth, have someone else man it for a while or early in the morning, late in the day when the crowds are less, and walk around and see who might be a potential buyer of your product. And then you talk to those principals because they're all there at the show, and that's a really useful way to assess the marketplace in that country. That's the key. How do you choose the distributor? Sometimes it's not about who chooses you, but who you choose. So you need to get into that marketplace and understand how it works and what it's all about. That takes time, and you have to be patient. But it is so willing. It's pretty thrilling when you move from cases to pallets to containers. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a good journey to be on for sure.
Yeah, that we all want, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, thank you very much, Elaine. Lots of great insights there, and I was making some notes, and I know we've got a few things in the chat. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to turn the floor to Katie first, and then we'll kind of go through some of the questions, and then have the three of you can take a crack at answering some of them. So, but lots of different things, great insights there, and I think it's so valuable to learn from people doing it. So thank you for that. And Katie, you've been here since the beginning, so thank you for being with us all morning. And It's great to have you here to share some insights. So Katie's a key account manager at Scotian Gold in the Annapolis Valley, and Scotian Gold is a grower-owned cooperative that stores and packs over 60% of Atlantic Canada's fresh apples. She's been with the company for 6 years and focuses on key domestic accounts and developing export markets. Since 2021, Katie has grown Vietnam into the second largest export market for Nova Scotia fresh apples. And that is an exciting story. We heard a little bit of some teasers about it before. You're showing up on the graphs now, so that's good. So
Yeah,
I'll
we're
turn
always
it over
happy
to
to see
you.
that.
Yeah, I'll turn it over to you, Katie, and the floor is yours.
All right, I do have a couple slides. I'm just going to share my screen here. All right, can everybody see that screen?
Yep.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Perfect. So yeah, thank you very much for having me. Scotian Gold is always excited to talk about this particular market. I'm excited to be here. This is a kind of a different take on it, a little different than Elaine's, where this is an established brand who has been shipping domestically and into the US for a long time, taking that brand and that product and taking it into a new export market. So we started shipping to Vietnam in October of 2021. So that was kind of in COVID times a little bit. Since then, we've shipped 65 containers. We have some going out the door today. So by the end of this season, we should be closer to 90, 95. In this market, we work exclusively with a partner in the region, and through this partner, we've shipped to most of the major retailers in Vietnam. Some of the key components of this market, as was spoken to earlier today, it wasn't a very developed market yet. We kind of came in at a time where consumers were looking to try new products. It's a very young population. The median age in Vietnam is 32, which is shocking compared to a country like Canada. They're interested in new products, and Canada already had a great reputation in this market, so we were able to kind of leverage some of that in the process. Kind of some of the key components of being able to grow this market so quickly has been our exclusive partnership with our partner Fruitex in the market. So a big part of that, as Elaine was saying, like these partnerships are a lot of times take a lot of time to develop, but they are for life. They're very, now that we've established this partnership, we have a great lines of communication with them. We've been to visit, they've been to visit here. And it's also given us a lot of feedback in terms of what's working in the market, what's not working in the market, what pricing should be. And most importantly, we kind of have boots on the ground. So when things inevitably go not the way that they are supposed to, we have folks in Vietnam who can go out to the customers and be face to face with them when we can't be. So that's been really, really key to being able to ship something for 2 months on the water and to have it be successful when it lands. Another part of that was an early establishment of the Scotian Gold brand. So again, this was not a very mature market, even in terms of apples. So we were able to take what we think is a very high quality apple, a very high quality product, and kind of allow that to set the standard for that product in Vietnam. So ambrosia would be one of the main apples there. We grow a very different ambrosia than even BC or Washington. So we've been able to take our quality product that is very different and have that kind of be the baseline for that apple in this country. And we've also been able to just leverage the Canadian origin. So Vietnamese consumers and buyers are comfortable with Canadian companies. They're comfortable with the Canadian story. And we've been really trying to tease Nova Scotia out of Canada as a whole, where the growing regions are so different, and show that Nova Scotia is in itself a great region to buy from. Some of the challenges that we've had are logistics. So Nova Scotia in particular is not ideally set up to ship into Asia. A lot of our competitors are on the West Coast. So we have BC and we have, most importantly, Washington. They can be in Vietnam sometimes in 2.5, 3 weeks. So we're at a bit of a disadvantage with that. So customers will have to plan a lot of their stuff earlier ahead of time. One of our biggest transshipment ports is Singapore, which is that visual photo there. So we've had a lot of challenges with our containers not getting there as fast and also getting delayed a lot more than our competitors. and also pricing competition. So I think Dennis was kind of speaking to this earlier. We are competing with, we are very tiny, even though we were one of the largest, or we were the largest exporter of apples in the country. We're very tiny in terms of the volume that we produce here in Nova Scotia and in Canada compared to other markets. So we don't have that ability to really sell as a commodity sometimes. Washington can come in and sell their apples sometimes for half of the price that we can sell there. So we've really had to lean into our quality being our differentiator and not our price. And with these challenges, we did kind of try to think of ways of how can we make that differentiation for consumers on the shelf. We have a great partner who's able to make this case to buyers, make this case to retail partners, but how do we show a customer when they're in the store that this apple from Canada is high quality and worth maybe the higher price that they're having to pay for it? So through our kind of visits into Vietnam and working directly with our partner, they give us pictures and information all the time. We found that the apple boxes were really being leveraged as display. So we don't see this in our Canadian market very often, the apples actually being part of the display on the shelf in market. So we saw this as an opportunity to show off the Scotian Gold brand and really hammer home that this is a quality product, this is a Canadian product, and this is a great quality apple. And we were actually able to leverage some funding with that. I think it's the Market Opportunities and Diversification Program that we were able to leverage some funding to have a box actually designed for the Vietnamese market. So it could be easily used, easily seen, and we could start really making Scotian Gold synonymous with really high quality. Initially, we actually almost got rid of the gold and almost went with Scotian apples. Because one thing we find here in our domestic market is a lot of our domestic buyers only call us Scotian. They kind of leave the gold part behind and they really focus on like the Scotia part. And we were very close to developing an export brand that was just Scotian apples and moving forward with that in Asia. And then we talked to our partners and they talked to their buyers. And apparently gold is one of the main reasons why our brand was doing so well in the Vietnamese market. So the word gold, people didn't know what Scotia meant at all, but like the English word gold really resonated with consumers. So we very, very quickly changed our approach and really focused on, okay, how can we make sure that Scotian Gold is kind of in the face of the consumer in a way that they can visually see. So we went through many different iterations of this new export box. We had a lot of feedback from our partners. We initially wanted to go with blue. They were like, no, it has to be red. People will see it. It'll be flashy. So we went through many different iterations. I think it took us about 6 months to kind of decide on what our final product would be. And then we landed on a Scotian Gold box that was very red, very appealing, could be merchandised on top of each other in the store. Looks great as a palette. And I'm sure you noticed that the boxes were actually upside down when they were merchandising them. So just something that could be still look visually appealing. With the other box was just a picture of apples that was flipped upside down, which no one is going to look at that. So just something that could be merchandised in different ways, but really still show off our Scotian Gold brand. And you can see here we actually had we had some Vietnamese folks in our production facility a couple of weeks ago for a TV program, and they were so excited to see the Canadian maple leaf on the box. That was the first thing that they noticed. And I think sometimes us as Canadian consumers, we're so used to seeing it, so it doesn't really stick up to us as much. But that was really nice feedback to see that leaf on there is making a difference, and people are noticing that and resonating that as a Canadian product. Yeah, that was just kind of a quick example of how we've adjusted maybe our branding for the Vietnamese market and how we're hoping this year to have that allow us to develop this market even further. All right, I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Katie. That was great, and I think it's so interesting to kind of see the journey, right, from from where you started to where you are now, and it will probably continue to evolve, right? As you continue to learn more about the market and get feedback. So I think it's great. Um and also just being able to overcome some of the advantages that your competition has, but still be able to build the market, right? I mean, you can't change where we're located. The reality is you got to get your product across North America or through it or something to get to that market. So to be able to build the business with, that sort of cost disadvantage before you start is definitely, it's interesting to see how you've done it, and I think it should be something people explore further too. So,
Thank you.
so I will go back and have a look at the chat, and I know we did have some questions going back to when Matthias was talking, but I think I certainly invite Katie and Elaine jump in to if you have any insights as well. So I guess the first question, there was a couple of comments about your booth there, Matthias. I'll let you have a look at them, sort of, looking at Halifax versus Nova Scotia, what people kind of register with. And then how can we diversify into other markets beyond the US? What's stopping us from getting into some of these newer markets? So I'll turn the three of you loose on that one.
Well, I would say that the federal government has an amazing research department, and they often have reports on individual countries and different product categories and what the marketplace is about. So you can look at that. The other thing is that you really need to think about, well, what country could use this product? What are the opportunities and the weakness in the markets that you're thinking about going into? So if you're looking at attending at FoodX, for example, take Japan. Well, it's an aging population, much the same as Canada. So they're older people. They're more wealthy. Maybe they can handle more of a premium product financially. They tend to be more interested in health and wellness products, and will spend money for that, or for the organic standards can be very important to them. In a lot of Southeast Asia, there's depopulation in many of the countries, and they're quite concerned about it. So it's refreshing to hear about Vietnam and the young population. That's great. So, thinking about how does your product fit into the social economic situation in that country, and do your research, and that will make your dollars go a little further, because you may not want to touch certain countries. So, why go there, right? Just be very selective of how you go about it. And also think about an entry program. So I had mentioned about going with like a major importer distributor, but we've also sold directly to a chain of grocery stores that have like 250 stores in Tokyo, which is the population of Canada. So it makes it cost efficient because they don't have a high cost of distribution like we have in Canada. That's a big plus for us. Being on the East Coast, to sell to product in Alberta and BC for us is very expensive. We're closer to London, as you know. So, you have to think about that for what your buyer is going to go through, and does it make sense? But many of these Asian countries, the population is very efficient. Seoul, for example, something like 80 or 90% of the population of the country is in Seoul. So it's very efficient that way. And same in Taiwan and Taipei.
I'm curious, Katie, how did you end up settling in Vietnam? How did that kind of come about? Because it's sort of one of the next questions is, about looking at decisions for new products. So, a matrix with international trade data to look at a new target market. And I think you have to look at data, but you also have to really do your research. So how did you end up sort of either selecting Vietnam, or did they select you? How did that work?
Yeah, so we had done something similar where we did have like a bit of a grid of like, all right, here are countries that we have access to. I was gonna kind of put that as part of like what could prevent, or what's holding people back or could prevent you from shipping. with agri-food products, you have to have market access, and sometimes that can take a long time. So we just looked at which companies do we have access to now that we could start shipping to, who's already there. So as a smaller player in the Apple game, we can really see how mature markets are based on how much they're buying from the US, how much they're buying from Europe, who's already in the market. So Vietnam was on our radar as a potential market, but we were actually referred to our customer now through a partner in the US. So we have a someone that we sell to in the US who also produces apples, and they were selling to Vietnam and didn't have what they were looking for, so they referred our customer to us. So it really speaks to making sure that you have great relationships even within your industry, because sometimes you're selling different things and sometimes you can service customers in different ways. So we were actually, referred to them by one of our existing customers, and that's how we started shipping to them. And I think the decision to really put a lot of resources into Vietnam and to keep developing it further really came down to how new we found the market was once we got there. After our first year of shipping, it became very clear that like there wasn't a really well-established apple market here. It was kind of a new uncharted territory for the US as well. So we really wanted to make sure that we were getting in there quickly and establishing ourselves quickly in a new market.
Interesting. Yeah, it's definitely there's definitely not one solution that fits everything. You have to think about what's right for the product you're selling and where you want to sell it into. And yeah, for sure. Interesting. And I do see there's a note there from Omira in there that Nova Scotia has joint trade missions with AAFC to Europe and Asia. So, and Omira did put her contact information in there if people are interested. So I would definitely encourage you to reach out to her and see if there are opportunities that are a good fit for you as you sort of explore different options. And then also another comment, I think it's more a comment than a question, but before going to a fair about my product, I gather and examine commercial intelligence about importers, wholesalers, or retailers who have the potential to become importers and a rival exporter country's products and prices. And the fairs are more productive for me, and also visit companies that do not participate at the fairs. So I think it's a lot about doing that research, and you do have to understand who you're competing against. So another question about, can you share your thoughts on picking Haskap berries for your product ideas? So I'm not sure whether that meant sort of specific ones, Elaine, or you know more about the category than I do, but was there a decision that you made in terms of specifics on which ones you would take to a market?
Well, I mean, I think that's a bit about product development, because we started off with a consumer range and now we've transitioned into where we think the bigger opportunity is probably in food service and ingredients. So we've learned a lot by going to trade shows to see what the marketplace is doing, to see what other people are doing with other products in your category, and why are they doing that. So our big challenge with Haskap really is about awareness. And if the influencers are using Haskap in the food service, the chefs, all of that, then 10 to 1, it exposes consumers to the product, and we're the brand. So that's good for us. Good for anybody in the Haskap business, but good for us. So we chose to sell added value products instead of raw material inputs, raw berries, because we feel that that's just a commodity market, and and it's about capacity. Like we're just never going to have the capacity that wild blueberries have or cranberries have. So how do we take our raw ingredients and do something with them that can make it useful and it can be profitable in the meantime to all the people in the supply chain along the way, all the players.
Mm-hmm. And that was a question I had. I'm going to get through all the questions other people have before I ask questions, but I think it is interesting about how you figure out all the different costs in these complicated supply chains. So
Quick
So
comment here on just follow up on Elaine and talking about ingredients in the food service. And, and it goes back to that first question on, challenges of diversifying outside of the United States. And it's a conversation that kind of stuck with me from a few weeks ago, coming from Seattle, Paris, and, seeing our Nova Scotia companies exhibiting there. They're the big fruit companies, it's the ingredient side of things. So it's your wild blueberries and your cranberries. And the conversation we had with the trade commissioner from Belgium is, and asking, what is the opportunity in Europe, in the EU for our SMEs, because we have this free trade agreement and we're seeing European companies take more advantage of this agreement. And Europe, you think there's 500 million consumers that are quite wealthy. What is the opportunity? And the response was more or less that for a small company that in a consumer package space, trying to compete in retail, by the time the costs are associated with your partner in distribution and shipping, likely smaller volumes, and then marketing that retail product, the cost associated, it pushes you into a premium space, whether your product might not be in that category or not. So it was definitely a challenge, and I think it does speak to why some of the products we see from Nova Scotia being shipped, lobster, scallops, blueberries, cranberries, they're going into the food service and the ingredient market.
Yeah, great. And then there's a question from somebody who said that they'll be participating in Food Expo in Japan next year for the first time, walking the show and looking to take samples. What would you recommend I do to prepare to make the most of the investment?
I think they can do some research on that marketplace with whatever product that they have. How is it treated? Who are the main players? What is it that you have that's unique? Take some samples with you in your suitcase if you can. And you just never know who you might be able to talk to and share those samples with. It's certainly cheaper to take it that way than to ship it ahead. You also have to have someone receive it or ship it to your hotel, whatever. But anyway, you can work at the logistics. But I think, there's so much information available to you online now with trade associations and everything that our federal government is doing with the research and the like. So just do some searches and invest the time ahead so you have an understanding of who the players are, and think about how you want to get into the marketplace. I mean, do you need somebody on the ground who works as a broker for you to market your product? That's what how do you want to do that? We just recently signed a broker for the Taiwan market for the ingredient sector. And through his network, much this way that Katie explained how they determined Vietnam, it was a recommendation from other companies in his stable. And so some of these companies are in Europe and other parts of the world. And so that's very exciting that we can do that collaboration. And the best part is that, firsthand endorsement. That's huge.
Yeah, all good points. And I think you do have to you have to own it going to these things. They won't do it for you. You have to own it. So
yeah. And keep your eyes open. I mean, it's a big world, but these shows, it can be overwhelming, but go to the different pavilions in these big shows that they all have different themes. See how people are marketing and merchandising the product. How are they pricing it? How are they selling it? And just be a sponge and lap up that information to see, how you can improve and how you can compete.
And Omira put a note in there that Nova Scotia will have some space at the Canada Pavilion at Food Expo in Japan in 2025. So I think if for Nova Scotia companies, it's a great opportunity to have a bit of a home base there to work from. Katie, there was a question about shipping apples at temperature. I'll let you, I won't try and answer that one. I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have found that we work with a great broker called Wilson. So we really rely on our broker to kind of help us determine like which marine company is the best one to work with. We definitely have experience with certain lines that we know we will not use them again. But it is, and in terms of like the insurance piece, it's really dependent on your Incoterms, like what your terms are set with your buyer. So when your insurance really needs to apply, like do they own it once it leaves the port? Do they own it when it arrives to their port, when it arrives to their door? So that is a kind of key component of that. But just like for specifics, we've had really good luck with one in Hapag. One good thing to do is also to research what's leaving Halifax specifically at certain times of the year. So one thing we've found useful is to see when like large quantities of seafood are leaving during the fall and try to hitch a ride or really ship out during that time because we find sometimes Halifax can be missed or skipped on some of the larger lines. So it's really helpful to check out what else is leaving this part of the world and see if you can determine which line that is and try to book that line when you ship.
Yeah, it's a complicated thing, but and you do have to protect yourself with insurance through the process and be very clear about when ownership changes hands and those kind of things for sure. Important things to iron out before you get into it too
Yeah.
much.
Expensive lessons have been learned.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. And I do see the link from AAFC, so thanks to Mariah for including that. So some great information there to help people do some of the research. So the question about shipping apples to Vietnam, I think, Katie, you kind of did cover some of those steps along the way. And there is a point there about CFIA inspection. So do you have it inspected before it goes? Is that something part of your process?
Yeah, and it's also dependent on the country. So we also ship to Singapore, but Singapore does not require a phytosanitary certificate, so we do not have to do an inspection, where Vietnam requires an inspection on every single apple load that leaves here. So it's very dependent on the company. And the person that you're selling to will have to provide you with an import permit. And that import permit is what CFIA uses to determine what they should be checking for when they're doing their inspection. They're actually here right now going through some ambrosia apples. So, and it's also important to kind of bake that into your lead time too for shipping. They need to inspect the load once it's completely, I think it's 80% complete. And you'll need to bake in time for them to inspect it and approve it before you can have it leave your door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of details to work through and very much market specific. So I think
yeah, and your customer should be able to help you like know this like the exact specifics around what their country needs.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I see another link from Omira in there about some of the opportunities and support that are there, and which is awesome. And we'll have at our fourth session, we'll also have some more insights into some of the support from Invest Nova Scotia for businesses. So there's a question about marine insurance, and I'm not sure if you mentioned the company, Katie, but I know you did say that you do use that, and it's making sure that it's very clear who has title to the product at each step in the process. So, and then Patricia, it was just more of a comment. She liked that apple box, Katie. And then again, the gold being aligned with Asian culture. So it sounds like there's opportunities for you to expand across the continent. So somebody did ask a question about shipping frozen samples to Asia, whether anybody has any experience with that or not. Elaine, you've got experience with all different ones. Yes.
Yeah. So we've had to ship frozen berries for testing to our markets, and we use dry ice and courier.
Yeah, that's usually the best way, and it's a process to get it put together and get it over there, but it's usually the way that people would do it. So
I mean, when you get to that point that they're requesting those samples, you're 99% there to a sale. So,
Mhm.
Another $1,000 courier bill is like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I think that's important. People, you mentioned off the top just about the capacity and the capability to do this work. It's not you can't get into it if you don't have some of the resources set up to do it. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and then there's another comment just about sort of blueberries in terms of sort of markets going up and some going down. And I think that's a constant in this, and working with people like Matthias and some of the other support is understanding the fluctuations in the market. So there's geopolitical things, there's consumer taste, there's all, and even their own domestic supply goes up and down, which can impact what they want to import into their country. So lots of factors to consider for sure. So I really want to say thank you to Matthias and Elaine and Katie. Really great insights. I got all kinds of notes here myself that I'm learning, and I think it's great. We really appreciate you being here with us, sharing, and awesome to hear about your experiences, and then hopefully motivating and helping other people take the next steps from an export perspective. So we'll get them back next year to share their insights from what they learned. So thank you, and thank you to everybody for being here with us and participating. It's great, awesome to have the questions and comments, and we all learn from each other so much. So thank you to everybody for being here, and for Yulia and the people from Invest Nova Scotia for bringing us together.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you very much to all the speakers. Just a quick reminder, those of you who are interested in one-on-one meetings with Peter Chapman, please send me a note. I only have 2 people who have signed up. We have 10 slots, so still have some openings. And we continue next week, Wednesday and Thursday, November 13th and 14th, to hear more about logistics, about labeling, shipping, all kinds of interesting and relevant stuff. So please stay tuned. Don't forget to join us. And the presentations, the recorded videos will be sent out also. They're being processed, so I will share those.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a beautiful day.
Bye.